Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. Today we're doing another electric bike. Specifically, this is the Eahora ROMEO. This is kind of a really heavy duty bike, large bike for maybe larger riders, smaller riders, kind of any size of rider. I'm kind of a large guy, so I'm hoping this will really push me with its large battery capacity. I don't know if you remember these guys, but I did a review on their M1 electric kind of chopper scooter. That one was really fun. And these guys make choppers. They also make these electric bikes. And this is going to be the first bike I've got from them. So as usual, it's going to be a fully in-depth review. We're going to unbox it right here, set it up, do a multi-terrain ride test, street, gravel, dirt, single track, see how it kind of handles rocks and stuff like that, and just kind of push it a little bit and see if anything breaks, just how it all works. So anyway, let's get started with the Eahora ROMEO electric bike. By the way, guys, if you guys were interested in seeing like that cool Harley looking scooter, you know, that chopper scooter, that was pretty amazing to me how kind of beautiful they're making those types of chopper looking scooters, and you know, they're decently affordable. If you did want to check that out, go ahead and check out the link below in the description. I'll try to also have a card pop up for that as well, because that thing is just super fun and it looks so awesome. It's like you're riding a little mini chopper scooter. Anyway, this other box, they said that that is the front tire. I guess this thing is so big that they couldn't fit the front tire in the main box or something. So we're also taking that out and just putting it all together. So that, my friends, is how you take a bike out of the box the right way. Open up the bottom and then flip it right side up with the bottom open and just lift it over. Worked really good that time. I usually have trouble with that, but this thing is packed really well. Wow, that's awesome. Padding everywhere. A couple of boxes fell out. We got our accessory boxes here, instruction manual there. As you can see, no front tire, didn't fit in the box. So we're gonna open that box up in just a second. But we need to get all this wrapping off and then start putting the handlebars on. Look how big that seat is though. This one's known for being a big boy bike with a huge battery. And look at those 26-inch tires, fat tires here. These are gonna get us over some stuff. They are pretty flat. We're gonna need to fill those up and make sure everything is filled up. Wow, guys, what a cut above of most bikes, e-bikes I review. Look at this. As I was unpacking the other side, this Fast Ace shock. Now this is a reputable brand. This is a really good shock for the rear came out, and apparently usually they install the rear shocks, but apparently this bike is so big that we've got to install this ourselves. But the quality looks pretty much next to top notch on this thing. I'm seeing Shimano gear here, tourney, so this is looking pretty awesome. Look at that battery. Oh my gosh, this battery is gigantic. Look at this thing. So they're going for a really robust, I mean, this thing is not light. I'll have the specs up on the screen so you guys can see the weight of this thing. Just huge. Wow. And this battery, oh my gosh. Don't want to take that out yet, but that's gigantic. Just a quick look at the bottom of the battery. I can see the tag on it. 48 volt, 60,000 mAh lithium ion battery. Unbelievable. So I'm thinking that the front shocks are probably going to be like Eahora branding. This isn't Fast Ace or anything on the front. They do look nice though. Compression and rebound adjustments right here on top. Everything is really nicely red and black anodized and painted. This is going to be fun to ride. I think we're going to get some distance on this thing. Let's unpack that tire and these accessories and see how everything goes together. All right, guys, let's see what we got. Small box. This looks like the headlight. Wow, nice one. All right, I like to see that halo actually has LEDs in it. Some bikes, recent bikes I'm reviewing, don't have the LED in the halo. This has a bunch in the halo and some really bright looking ones in the center for a headlight. Pretty awesome looking. This looks like quality, man. And let's get over to our other box here. This is probably going to be all the tools and our charger and all that stuff. Let's have a look-see. Yep, so a little bag of tools with a bunch of wrenches and a screwdriver I just dropped. You can see all those wrenches and Allen wrenches, little screwdriver handle. We have our pedals. So these are pretty much the average pedals that come with these kind of Chinese bikes. And we have this bag of a bunch of parts. This looks a little intimidating to me, but we'll see how this goes on. I'm seeing some screws, bolts, and nuts, and just a bunch of brackets. There's a reflector. So this is gonna be the charger. Let's see what we got. Ooh, nice one. It's like a pretty quality charger. Wow, this is all painted aluminum with all these cooling fins here. Looks really nice. That's what we're gonna plug in our wall plug right here. 120 volt in my country. Yeah, input, wow, you can go 1 to 240. So you can actually hook this up to 240 as well. 3.5 amp input, and then output 54.6 volts at 5 amp lithium ion battery charger. Those look like 2 LED lights on the bottom. That's interesting. The fins are on this side, but the lights are on that side. Interesting. Anyway, that's the charger. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's open this other box with the tire in it. That's going to be our front tire. Packed surprisingly well for a tire, and a fender actually. No wonder. The fender's in there too, so that's probably why they packed it like that. Just a plastic fender, no metal here. There's our tire, 26 inch. That's nice. And nothing else in here. Packed very well, gotta say. Some of these bikes I receive, everything's just thrown in, but these guys, you know, went the extra mile. Okay, Mr. Romeo, all unpacked, and we need to really probably look at the manual on this one for installation, because we got to put that back shock on, front tire, fender, handlebars will probably be the first thing to do. But anyway, here's the manual, nice color. We have all of our specifications, 1000 watt motor, 48 volt, dual hydraulic brakes, awesome. This is top quality here. You don't normally see hydraulic brakes all the way around. That's great. It's got a front light, a brake light, and turn signal lights, awesome. Recommended heights for this guy here is, guys, is 5 feet 4 inches to 6 feet 2 inches, and I am 6'1", so perfect. I'm just within, you know, that threshold there. If you're a taller rider, you can always get those spacers that bring the handlebars up a little bit. We talked about the battery. That's a 48 volt 60 AH battery, or 60,000 mAh, right? Carbon steel frame, load capacity 300 pounds. So, you know, this thing can carry quite a bit of weight. Just looking at the performance page here, it can go maximum 30 to 33 miles per hour. So gone are the days of 15 to 20. This guy is way up there in the 30 mile per hour range, which is awesome. Max range 1 to 200 miles. That's insane. And that's probably because this battery is so gigantic. That is unbelievable. I could like ride this all the way down to another town and back, and I should still have battery left. I might do like a kind of a range test like that. That'd be cool, like a city to city range test. I'm looking for the assembly. Here we go. So the assembly starts on page 10. Yep, as I suspected, we want to get the handlebars on first, and that'll make it easier to put everything else together. Okay guys, this is a tad interesting. So it looks like they probably by now have changed the manual, but my model doesn't have these screw holes on top here, and these light brackets are different. It shows kind of a one-piece light bracket screwing in on top. This isn't doing that. This has like these individual piece brackets that look like they go somewhere around here and hold the light kind of in this area. Okay guys, so not too confusing. Basically that whole bag right here that had all those things in it, these are like all the brackets for the headlight, and that's all it is. Basically it's these rubber little stoppers that kind of wrap around here. There's really only one way to do this. We got 2 rubber collars and then a wraparound collar that wraps around the one of the shocks at the top, and then you can see there's a screw in here. Basically this can only go on one way. You're just basically screwing in right there so we can go up and down with our light. And these guys are just wrapping around basically the shocks, and that's gonna kind of hold the light out like that. So okay, wow, yeah guys, so that was a lot more complicated than it needed to be, it seemed, to put this headlight on. So as you can see, it's just a clamp. You put one into the other, bring them around to the front. These little rubber guys are just kind of protecting and keeping it up. And you have to kind of level this thing out. It's kind of up to you to put it up on the shocks, like where you think you want it. Hopefully that doesn't interfere with anything down here, or the fender should be okay. But a lot more complicated than it seemed like it needed to be. But it's on there, it's solid, everything's tight. You can rotate it down, and then it stops when you go a little too high. It seems like these are gonna get loose. You're gonna have to retightening these side bolts right here. They do have lock washers, but probably once you get that and just crank it down, you won't have to move it again. All right guys, so your typical handlebar mount, basically just that clamp over the handlebars. I'm gonna leave them a little bit loose because these are gonna probably need to be adjusted up or down, left and right a little bit, just to get your comfort position before you ride. But while I was installing the handlebars, I noticed, look at these wires. So these are on the sides of the light. Not too bad, but I'm thinking they might be supposed to be behind the light back in here. So if that bothers me, I might just take off one of these brackets and pull this thing to the side and go ahead and throw the wires behind the light. Kind of looks cool like that, not too bad. And then next step here is just to connect this green to green for our headlight. Looks like there are two green wires here, one wire, one there. So that is a little bit confusing, but I think we can figure out which one is going to work for the headlight. And that's gonna almost wrap it up. Okay guys, I think I want to put the pedals on just in case it wants to tip. I have a little bit of platform for it to tip on. So the pedals right here on the bolts are labeled right and left. So they have to be on the correct side. So this one's going to go where your left foot's going to go. And just like all pedals, they're always reverse threaded, and it tells you right on there which way to turn the bolt. You see that little yellow sticker? So this is going to go counterclockwise. You got our 15mm, give it a good crank. Same thing on the right side, but this one is regular clockwise screw pattern. So guys, front wheel, obviously the brake is on the left side of the bike here, so we want this disc brake to be on the same side. And we have our axle nuts here, and basically we have little lock washers that are going to prevent the wheel from coming off. So we want to make sure this is going to be all on correctly. Just got to take out this little bracer bar for shipping here. Let's see if that's possible. There we go. I don't see any brake spacers in disc brakes there, so be careful not to squeeze your brakes while you're putting it on. There's usually a plastic little spacer you have to take out, so don't squeeze your brakes. Hopefully I didn't, and it'll just slide right in there. All right, well guys, it was actually easier than I thought to flip that bike over. Not too bad. Definitely recommend just like patting the handlebars. Doesn't look like the screen is touching the ground if you're on flat cement like this, so everything worked out okay. Just want to put these little lockers in and tighten these bad boys up pretty darn tight. Don't want these falling off in the trail, so I'm gonna go just a 1/4 inch tighter than what I think it should be, and we should be good enough. Always want to check these once in a while, just to make sure they're tight and your front wheel doesn't fall off. So guys, these are more like a 14mm, but they don't give you a 14mm wrench. So a little con there. This is kind of a loose little connection here. I kind of can't believe that there's no lock washers with this. It seems to me like there should be a lock washer on each side, but there are no lock washers. So maybe another con. If you have a torque wrench, make sure you torque to, you know, bike axle spec, probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 20 to 25 pounds of pressure. I'm just gonna go ahead and work with what I got here. They seem pretty tight. Definitely not a good wrench for tightening your axles though. They need to include a 14mm in there, but the 14 is missing. So use your own 14 if you got one. So guys, the Fast Ace shock, looks like that's not what's in the picture. We have a different shock in the picture, which looks a little different, but let's just give it a try. It looks like the wheel end is going to have the non-adjustable side here. That's going to go towards the wheel. And then we want that adjuster knob to be easily accessible. So it'll probably be kind of like right in front of the seat. Although this does have this tightening spring collar up here. So, and also the wording is in a certain direction. So I may want to try to put it this way and then just flip it one way or another to easily adjust that rebound dampening here on this rear shock. So unfortunately missing another wrench this size, guys. This is kind of the medium wrench they give you, not the maximum. And I had to bust out a tool from another bike I had to tighten the other side of the shock. So you need like 2 of these Allens, at least with this shock. This is that Fast Ace. Definitely want to prepare for that. But got it in. Seemed like it wasn't too hard. Just the hardest part is when you're lifting up the tire. This might be another time when 2 people are good to have around. When you're lifting up the tire, you just got to match up those holes and slide that bushing in, and then you can tighten them nice and tight, but easy enough. I think I'm gonna flip it back over to get that fender on the front, and I think we're just about done. Holy smokes, guys, this thing is turning out to be a monster. Here's the keys here, 2 keys here for removing the battery, keep those safe and sound. One little tidbit I wanted to touch on is I was flipping the bike back over, and really with like all of these types of bikes that come from China, really double check all of your bolts and stuff, because literally just pulling this thing up from the ground, this whole grip just like almost slid off. All this stuff came apart. So, you know, just keep in mind that you're gonna need to make sure bolts are tight before you start riding this thing. This is kind of the norm with these bikes like this. You just want to kind of go over everything and just make sure they're all tight. I mean, not really a super knock to the company Eahora, but maybe if you're listening, Eahora, maybe the QC of your guys from the factory tightening bolts and making sure they're just, you know, another turn or quarter turn or half turn a little tighter would be nice, because I'm just feeling all these right here. This, even the grips on this side, they're all just a little bit loose. Of course, maybe you want them loose initially so you can adjust things around, but just make sure you tighten them up back up. So I would be really careful with, like I did, turning this bike over, because I'm already seeing that I already hit the cement on the control bar. So if you're gonna turn it over like I did, really make sure you have padding on the 2 handlebars and also like on the seat area, something to be aware of. Awesome. So the hydraulic brakes, this is great. This is pretty premium, and it feels like, you see how those brake levers are moving too? So they're kind of leaving everything loose, so you can kind of adjust them how you need to. So really just kind of go over everything and get it where you want, and then just make sure that you tighten everything down. Okay, so we have 1 green plug from the display, that's a male, and then we have 1 green plug from the light. We need to figure out which is which on these 2 plugs right here, because there's 2 female greens and I don't know which is which. So let's look at the instructions. It doesn't say, son of a gun. So something else we kind of need to just figure out ourselves is which goes where. Control light. Okay, so because one's on the top, one's on the bottom, I guess we'll try this first. The closest to the control, we'll go ahead and plug in the control to it, just like so. Nice and tight click. And then the headlight, this is kind of a longer cable. We'll go ahead and just plug it in right down here into the headlight. I think that's gotta be how it's supposed to be, because otherwise I don't think the cables would really reach in those directions. So there we go, headlight and our control. And remember, all these are pretty loose, so this is something you're gonna wanna tighten up too once you're ready to go. I think that's pretty much it, guys. It looks fantastic. I can't get over how massive that battery is. Like, you know, you see electric bikes that are kind of the batteries hidden in the body there, the actual frame. This is definitely not gonna be hidden whatsoever. I am noticing there's a little bit of film here to protect the tail light. Let's take this off. There we go. Wow, looking good. So it looks like there's blinkers here and our tail light there. We still need to put that front fender on. It doesn't look like there's going to be any front blinkers unless they're built in to the headlight. Let's get this fender on and figure all that out, power it up, and see how things work. All right, one of the easier fenders I've put on. I just want to make sure before you crank everything down, everything's kind of lined up. It looks good. Looks good enough. Nothing major. It would have been kind of neat to see metal fenders, but all we're getting is plastic here. But everything else looks good. Let's try to give this thing a quick power on before we take our test ride. Make sure everything's working. Just holding in the power button, and there we go. Eahora on the screen. Password. Gotta look up in the manual what this is. A light is already on with a power up. Not the middle light, but that nice halo light is lighting up. It's cool. So kind of like day running lights. The tail light also has a halo on it. That's awesome, man. That looks really nice. For the life of me, in this entire manual, I can't find any kind of password. I'm sure it's something like 0000, but they don't mention it anywhere in here. So let's just try to punch in a couple numbers, I guess. Press up and down. Let's try 0. Okay. 4 zeros is the default password, so I guess you can change that if you want. And check out this display, guys. It looks pretty nice. We've got a bunch of information here. We have a just about 80% charged battery. It's showing us that the light is on. Okay, that's what this is here. So low and high beams, I can see it on the wall there. Low and high, I'm just switching it. So it was already on low, and then we have our blinkers and our horn. Let's hear the horn. Whoa! High-pitched mosquito horn, interesting. Let's go ahead and try the blinker. So I'm gonna hit the left blinker, boom. Just a physical blinker. And there we go, the rear blinker on the back. Pretty neat looking, little arrow. Let's try the right side, click into the right, and there it is. Okay, so blinkers on the back. I don't see anything on the front though. Would have been really nice to have just like a little yellow dot blink right here and there for left and right, but this does not have any front blinkers, unfortunately. It has no indication on the actual screen that your blinker's on, unfortunately, so you're gonna have to remember that you have that switched and then go ahead and click it back to the middle. If you want, it looks like you can take off, there's a little film here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that on just for durability purposes. What we're mainly looking at here is our miles per hour. It's already in miles per hour. I'd assume you can change it to kilometers per hour. I don't really care too much about that. That is interesting. So just by holding the plus, I'm like looking at the light over here and holding this plus power assist button down, the halo light turns on and off, but the middle headlight doesn't turn on or off. It looks like that's always on. You would think it would be the opposite, right? Everything seems like it's plugged in correctly. Anyway, let's go through a few things. So power assist, we're going to be pressing the plus mode, and we're looking at the very bottom left of the control screen. You're going to see that go from 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, it turns from green to blue to red. Interesting. So as I press it back down, we're in red. We get to 3, it's blue. To 2, it's blue. And then 1 is green. That's kind of interesting. Telling us our average mile per hour and our trip. It looks like maybe somebody has tested this, which is great from the factory. They did like a 0.3 mile test on it. Let's hold the negative down. Okay, there we go. Oh, so that was walking mode. So I was holding negative and the bike just started to move a little bit. So that's great if you don't want to really be pedaling, you just want to be walking it and maybe talking with somebody or walking up a hill or whatever. You can just press this negative button, this minus, and it will go into walking mode as long as you're holding it. Let me just see if I press plus and minus at the same time, if anything happens here. There we go. So we're getting into display settings by holding these two buttons down. If we hit password, you can do a start password on, reset password, or Bluetooth unlock. That's cool. So nobody will be able to ride it unless they have the Bluetooth connection on their phone. So that's cool. So start password, I'm going to turn that off for now. Let's try 4 zeros again. Start password off. Okay. Well, it turned off when I pressed on it and did 4 zeros. That's kind of interesting. Let's see if that actually, if I hold it down and power off, let's see if it asks me for a password again, if I don't want that. Okay, awesome. So now I'm back in and my password is off. So anyway, I think that's kind of it, guys. Everything looks good. It looks like it's going to be working fine. Let's see if this throttle works. Oh, wow. Yeah, that thing's got some torque, man. Holy smokes. Oh, one more thing I was worried about is this little derailleur here is kind of bent, kind of weird. And this usually happens in shipping. It's always kind of weird stuff that happens like this. I want to double check this because it looks like it's really out of whack. I mean, look at it from this side. It's just like pointing out that way. Kind of funny. Oh, I also got to pump up these tires. Look how low those tires are. So I got to pump those up. And I'm looking for some kind of indication on the tires. 30 PSI. Can't really see it down there, but that says 30 PSI. Let me see if I can show you on the other side. Right here, it's saying 30 PSI. So let me pump these up to 30 on both front and back. I think we should be good to ride. Let's give a good brake test. Quick little brake test on that rear cool halo light. There we go. So the halo just gets a little brighter. Interesting. Not that great, but it looks like it's gonna work. And this is just a reflector in the center. I would have thought that would light up really bright, but it's just the halo getting just a little bit brighter. One thing I didn't check is what this thing is. Oh wow, cool, what the heck? That is a standard like computer plug style. Look at that thing. So is that the charger plug? Wow, yeah, so coming off the charger, that is the plug style. It's that nice 3-prong big old thing, and that's gonna just sit right in here. Just plug right in like that. There we go, give it a nice seat. I haven't seen that since. I guess that makes sense. I mean, their chopper scooter, that M1 scooter had the same kind of plug, so I guess that makes sense. They're using kind of the same plugs, but I just can't get over how gigantic this battery is. It's got a handle on it, so I wanna see if we can maybe pull it out before I start charging it. And perhaps this is where we can use this set of keys we got with it. Let's give it a try. So right or left, so unlock. Whoa, okay. Holy smokes, guys. That is insane. Oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this battery. Oh, you know what this is? That's weird. I think somebody at the manufacturing plant thought this was for the battery. This is the little front brake spacer, I believe, but it just came out of the battery compartment. That's so weird. So that's where the brake spacer was. It was jammed in the battery somewhere. That's unfortunate. So you guys, if you can hear me here, Eahora, you know, maybe fill in your plant manufacturing guys what things are for. A little button on the bottom. I'm gonna just press it. It looks like you can just do a press and hold and you can get your basic charge. So I got 3 green lights, 1 red, so that's perfect. That kind of tells me it's like around 75 or lower, and that seems just to be about just right. Look at that battery compartment area. That's gigantic. Oh my gosh. Right in here we have these kind of spring-loaded contacts. We got a lock up here. At the bottom, there are 7 prongs sticking up, and there's where those 7 prongs are going, right in the top. Man, this thing is massive. My goodness. What an interesting, it's almost like one of those little like Suron motorbike batteries, right? This is insane. I've never seen an e-bike have a battery this big. That just clicked right in perfectly. You just set the bottom in, put this on the top, boom. Let's try that one more time just to see how easy it is. So we're pulling in the key to the left and then just pulling this battery out. I gotta say, I mean, it feels like it's about, I'm feeling like 15 to 20 on this battery. So not too heavy, but you know, it's probably the heaviest e-bike battery I've ever dealt with here. But so that's insane, man. So it seems like it's really easy to get it in. It just clicks in. You don't have to have the key in when you click it in just to take it out. I think I want to do 25 just to give it a little bit of cushness in the tire. Those suckers are tight at 25. They'll also be better for trails and stuff. Trails, yes, but if you want to get the best energy efficiency, you probably want to get the tires as tight as possible at 30 PSI. I'm just doing 25 because I kind of want an all-around cushness of the tire. All right, guys, let's give this thing a whirl. So the handle on the battery is definitely an absolute must for a battery of this size. And once you get that bottom lined up, it seems to click in pretty good without issue. So I just charged it overnight. Let's go power this bad boy on and go for a ride. See how it does. Gonna do a little bit of trail riding here. First, I'm gonna take it on the road, go down the gravel driveway here, and then come back up. We'll get through the single track in some kind of single track dirt with some rocks and roots, see how it kind of handles that. Come on back, give it kind of a pros and cons when we finish up. I did want to mention on the derailleur here, I had to kind of like bend this thing around a bit just to kind of get it to act correctly on the gears. It was in the lowest gear, the easiest gear. It was actually kind of riding weird on the bottom here where the derailleur kind of pushes. So just like any bike, probably from shipping, you got to kind of bend this thing around a little bit, do some adjustments with these Phillips head screws, just kind of bring it in and out just a little bit. It seems to be fine now, so we'll see. It was just like a little bit skipping a notch on a gear or two, and that's usually the case with these bikes after they come from shipping. You know, they're just a little bit messed up in this this area right here. But it seems good now, so let's try it out. We have those 25 PSI air-filled tires all filled up, and we just need to ride it and see how it does. Anyway, let's hop on and see how this beast does. All right, guys, you know what I want to try? I want to try to see how fast we can get going on just throttle only. See the power of this bike. There's a straightaway coming up here, so I'm just going to full throttle it and then switch up gears. So hopefully the drone keeps up with me. But so first gear, remember, maximum is going to be about 14, 15. Feeling good. Like that throttle is really controllable. If you just want to use throttle, you don't have to pedal if you don't want to. It's got plenty of power with that 1,000-watt motor. It's just like I was saying, this front suspension over here, right here. So it shoots down. You hear this massive clank when it extends itself all the way, and you kind of feel it in the handlebars. Okay guys, the last thing I want to show you if this drone can keep up is the cruise control mode. So let's be in power assist mode 1, and I'm going to give it full throttle. Okay. And it seems like once you hit full throttle for like 10 seconds, I'm off the throttle on my right hand here. I just hit the brakes to turn it off. It will cruise control at whatever speed you have it at. So it has to be full throttle, it seems. So if you're doing like a long commute and you're in any PAS mode, you can cruise in 15 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, 25, or 30, depending on what mode you're in. So I'm just in mode 1. I'm going to try that again. I have full throttle with my thumb on the throttle until I see the time come up on the screen. There's just that little speed control or cruise control icon. Now I can take my hand off. As soon as I hit the brakes, it just gets out of the speed control, just like a car would. So that's working pretty good. I'm digging that. That'll be really great for like long commutes, just, you know, so you don't have to hold the throttle down all the time. Now remember, this thing can do supposedly 100 to 200 miles on one battery charge. Of course, this is the first battery charge I'm using, and we'll go over that when we get home. Maybe this is a good time to check out that blinker actually. Hopefully you can kind of see it on the right rear. I have the blinker clicked to the right. I'm going to click it to the left, so you can see kind of how visible it is from afar a little bit. Well guys, that was a fun little test. So let's talk about the pros and cons. Remember, this is the Eahora ROMEO. Is this the Pro model? This might be the Pro model. So you get, you know, a few more features than the basic model. Go ahead and check down below in the description of where you can find the different models of this bike. They also have a Juliet model, kind of funny, right? Which is more of like a women's model. But this one, I like how it's still a little bit low key there, almost like a partial step through right there, because it's kind of a low bar in the front there. So you're not gonna, you know, women probably wouldn't have trouble getting up there, and shorter people, it'd be easier to get on. But I'm 6'1", going on 6'2", and this thing was perfect size for me. It's a pretty big bike. Remember, it's beefy, it's heavy, but that's the trade-off for such a crazy range. And speaking of range, I want to see where we're at. So display's looking really good. We're at 94%, and just during this review, I've gone 11.5 miles total. That's riding through the street up and down a few times, to my house up and down a few times. Just noticing right now that this has a light sensor. So you might have noticed the screen dim. When it detects a dim screen, the lights automatically come on, which is pretty awesome. And then the screen kind of dims a bit when it gets dark. So great safety feature, gonna keep you going, you know, in nighttime if you forget to turn on the lights or something. That's definitely a great safety feature, so other people can see you from the front. So really effectively 11.5 miles. And we used 6% of power, and that's kind of in this hilly situation, right? So if we times 11.5 times 10, that's 100 miles. 5 times 10, let's just round it off to like 5% times 10. That is what? That's 25. So we would still be at 75% in kind of the around 75. In the terrain I used it in, going around 100 miles, just an estimate. So that's pretty amazing. So that 100 to 200 is realistic. It can happen. And remember, I wasn't paddling much. I was mainly using that throttle, which worked really well. You guys saw how it performed in the trails. It performed well enough for kind of just medium trails. Once you get into like hardcore trails, you're gonna want like a purpose-built mountain bike for off-road. But this did the task if you're going in between, you know, roads and single track trails or dirt roads or something. You just don't want to start getting into like heavy duty rocky ledges and all that kind of stuff, because that noise, you can tell all the clanking that starts to happen when you're doing stuff like that. You can tell this bike is not meant for fully off-roading like a purpose-built mountain bike, but it did well enough. And that brings us to kind of the first con I have on this thing is there is a jolt on pedal throttle. So the power assist, when you start to pedal, it's just full on. Doesn't have any more torque between power assist levels 1 to 5. They just go faster top speed, okay? So the jolt is the same through all of those levels when you pedal. Kind of don't like that. I kind of wish that bikes would get more towards maybe like a linear, how hard you pedal type of deal, but that's a more expensive sensor and all that stuff, so I can see why maybe they didn't put that on. So that was my main con on the just the jolty power on pedaling. It is powerful. It's a 1,000 watt motor, and you can tell it's 1,000 watt. Like I said, I weigh 230 pounds. And it gets me going. It was great in the trails. You can use that throttle. That's what I really like with the throttle assist, is you can just be stuck in a situation where you can't really pedal uphill. You need to go uphill, and it gets you started. Wheels and tires, perfectly fine, perfect grip. This is a great kind of all-terrain tread grip. Worked really well on both street and the trails. Lighting, great all around the bike, except I really do wish that they had some kind of blinkers on the front. That was kind of lacking. The blinkers on the back do work fine. You just have to remember you're gonna have to turn those off with the thumb switch or they'll stay on. Really wish there was some kind of indicator that they were on up here because people are gonna forget and that could be dangerous. Almost forgot to mention there's a little slot on the handle battery for your Neo drone. Grip's very comfortable. Again, just make sure that you go through the whole bike and just see if you can tighten any of the screws, because you know, this almost slid off. I'm glad I found that out before I took it riding, because this almost completely slid off when I was flipping it over. Go through all of the screws as much as you can just to make sure they're tight. Assembly wasn't that bad. One of the easier assemblies, it just makes it a little more difficult because it's so heavy. So, you know, preferably have somebody with you. If you don't have somebody that can help you, you kind of saw what I did to kind of make it easier to assemble. Just put some padding down, make sure you're not scratching things if you need to flip it over. Like I was saying, once you kind of get the derailleur and all that adjusted, no problem with the gears. Usually those things get a little bit bent from shipping. Mine seemed a little bit bent. Let's talk about the suspension. So that was probably the second kind of variable pro and con. Rear great, that Fast Ace rear shock, really comfy, it's sturdy. You can adjust the rebound right here with this little knob, and if you want to adjust the compression, you can right there just by tightening this up a little bit if you're a really heavy rider. Remember, this can do about 300 pounds rider, but I kind of had it dialed in perfect. Now the front suspension is another story. You can tell it's not a Fast Ace. It's just kind of Eahora's or some kind of rebranded front suspension. And that's kind of probably one of the main cons on this bike is it's not very good. I mean, it's going to, oh, that's another plus, is it just automatically shut off in about 5 minutes, the whole bike shut off. You don't have to worry about it staying on and draining. But anyway, about the front suspension, it's fine until you get off-road where you're kind of like dropping off little ledges or rocks because you're really gonna feel it. It just doesn't really have any dampening on the way down. So this guy right here, the preload, doesn't really seem to do anything, and that's kind of the case on these cheaper front forks, is preload never does anything for me, but compression usually works okay. I kind of dialed this into almost the maximum compression. If you keep going, you can actually lock the shocks off if you want to. So you have like no travel at all. It's just like a solid lock. So you can do that at least if you want to, but you know, just that's one of the cons, is kind of like a cheaper front shock doesn't really seem to be that quality. The light, fantastic, and that thing is super bright. I love the halo lights around the side. They work really well. The headlight's bright. You also have low and high, and they auto kick on at night just in case for safety reasons. That's definitely a total plus. As mentioned, the brakes are fantastic. They are probably one of the best features of this bike. They're hydraulic brakes. I squeezed them pretty hard. No leaking, no braking on them. I've done some recent bikes where you squeeze the brake hard and the fittings just blow out, and this didn't have any of those problems, so that's great. You have easy adjustments on the brakes. Shifting was nice and easy. The whole shifter assembly, as mentioned, it's kind of like a trigger thumb situation where you're pulling the trigger with your pointer finger to go to a faster speed, a harder and faster speed, and then you're pushing this one with your thumb to get to an easier, lower speed. And that seemed to work totally fine. Throttle was fine, no issues with the throttle. The only thing I can think of that may be a little bit of a con with this type of throttle is, since it's not the twist throttle, with a twist throttle you can kind of like use your hand like this and twist it, and then you can still switch gears with your thumb. With this, when you're pushing the throttle, it's really hard to switch gears. You almost have to you could do it like this and then use the tip of your thumb to kind of switch the gears. But that's the only drawback for this type of throttle right here, is it's just harder to switch the gears with your thumb. And the last con I want to mention is the seat. A great looking seat, and it kind of seems and feels like it's going to be not bad, but when you get on it and you're riding for an extended amount of time, it's not that great. It's just like a really stiff, almost like a seat you'd have on a dirt bike motorcycle. But for kind of more of a long range cruiser bike like this, I would have liked to see the seat be a little bit softer and, you know, be a little bit more comfortable for those long rides. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. That is my final say in the Eahora ROMEO Pro. Definitely an awesome bike, a beast for sure, and you get what you pay for as far as battery longevity. This is the longest range bike I've ever had, e-bike, and it seems to hold true as far as the testing I've done on it. This battery is fantastic. and you're gonna get a crazy amount of mileage on this bike, and it's gonna take you a long way and take a long time to run out that battery. So if you're somebody that needs to commute to town and you have maybe a longer commute, I would be comfortable doing a commute of maybe 50 miles to just be, you know, have a little bit of reserve just in case. And of course you could always test that. I'm thinking about doing maybe like a 40 to 50 mile trek across towns with this thing. I may do a video on it. So if you guys want to see, go ahead and comment in the description down below, guys, if you want to see like a long trek video like that of like a 50 mile across between towns and seeing how much is left over to the next town. Let me know, because those can be kind of dangerous. You know, there's nothing in between. You know, I don't have any chargeability. All I have is my cell phone to call somebody for help. Maybe they could pick me up in a truck or something. But let me know in the comments down below if you guys would like to see a video of that, just a super long range test on this guy. This seems like one of the best bikes to do that on. Anyways, really enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. My oh my, little Neo. You are panning out to be a little handful, aren't you?